Hi, my name's Terry Lee Bivona, and I'm 52 years old, and I've been a hospice nurse for about 12 years, and did trauma ICU nursing before that. And about 5 weeks ago, almost 6 now, I was found to have severely advanced stage 4 bone cancer and prostate cancer. So amazingly, in a really short period of time, I went from being a hospice nurse to a hospice patient, which I did about 3 weeks ago. My prognosis is brief. It looks like I'll be on the earth from 3 to 6 months. And so I wanted to use this opportunity to record and kind of do video clips of some of the most profound experiences and unique experiences in my healthcare career. Things that really changed me and events that really made me the student as much as anybody else during these kind of heartfelt moments. So this is clip number 3, and it's called The House Coat. I've worked in 5 different hospices across the nation in the United States, and developed a pretty good reputation for being kind of a good troubleshooter or a good pinch hitter when there was emotional distress with the patient or problems with the family or struggles with the family. I was and am a good person to call in a situation like that. So this one town I was at, there was this very high profile, well published and well known professional family. And this man was dying, and he had a tracheostomy and a feeding tube, really profoundly contracted in the hospital bed, and you could just see it by his demeanor. This man felt a lot of shame with that level of disability. He had gone into the hospital for about 2 weeks. Everything that could go wrong seemed to have gone wrong. The family was just validating that good money and good insurance and social status doesn't always assure that things are going to go your way in life, and they had dozens of bad things happen in the hospital prior to their admission to hospice on Thursday. They came home, the hospice nurse came out for that day. It was not a good connect. They didn't feel the support they needed they were going to get from this nurse, and so they really wanted to drop the whole hospice thing. My administrators asked them to wait one more day and let me come out, again with my seasoned background both in hospice, cancer care, and trauma things. They thought I might be a really good match for their needs, which were quite high. So they concurred with that. So on Friday at 10 in the morning, myself, the hospice nurse practitioner, and the hospice social worker went to this patient's house, and we'll call him Jack. And his wife is kind of the matriarch of the family, so the meeting was really to be with her and then everybody else thereafter. Got at the house at 10 o'clock, as agreed, and the daughter let us in the door in almost lackluster fashion. We identified ourselves, she kind of nodded and let us in, walking through the screen door kind of ourselves. We all went upstairs, followed her, and in this large room is big thick plastic on the floor, a very old metallic-y looking hospital bed with big long side rails, his tracheostomy and the breathing tubing out to the side hooked up to this very loud humidifying machine, a feeding tube, feeding pumps, nurses' aides. The patient's brother-in-law was there, also a very high-profile person. So it just was heavy, and the wife wasn't in the room. And we waited and waited and waited, and literally sometime around 10 or 12 minutes in silence, kind of hanging out with his family members, and they really weren't talking either with each other. So I could just feel the distance and the weight in this house and the difficulty. And so after about 10 or 12 minutes, the daughter says, "Oh, Mom didn't get a shower last night, and she's taking a shower now." So we kind of looked at each other like, okay. And we waited a couple more minutes. At that point, we could see, like from the other family members, we could actually hear the water and realize she was on her way up. But what we heard on the steps was this kind of thump, thump, thump. I mean, I heard tired, heavy, fatigued feet coming up the stairs. So that kind of was giving me much more of a picture of what was going on in this house. And she comes up the stairs, Jack's wife, and her hair is kind of hanging down in wet ringlets, not soaking wet, but still really wet. She had on this old house coat, and it was like a dark blue kind of crushed velvet, and it was really old, had areas that were actually worn. So I knew she had had this thing for a long time, and made the assumption she probably had some sentimental value to it. She did not look happy. She looked very fatigued. The nurse practitioner introduced everybody in the room to her and to me, and I was the last one that got introduced. And she says, and this is Terry Bivona, again with his hospice and palliative care certifications. He's been in hospice back then a few years. Trauma ICU backgrounds, cancer certified, chemo certified. And she nodded, and I nodded at her, and I said, excuse me, is that a Victoria's Secrets outfit you have on? And the energy in the room just stopped, and you could hear little around the room, all these people go like that. And she said, what? And she leaned her head to me, and I tipped with this little grin on my face, and I said, well, I'm just looking at your outfit, and I'm just wondering if that's a Victoria's Secrets outfit. And she takes her hand, and she goes like this. Do you mean this? And again, the grin was just a little less subtle. And I said, yes, that. And she goes, why, as a matter of fact, it is. Do you like it? Now, this is like a 70-year-old couple, and I'm doing this, and everybody could hear me. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I do like it. And it was amazing, because that was a very important moment. It was very sweet, very daring, but what I did next to me was the most important thing. I said, I do like it. And I said, the other thing that I want to do, that I'd like to do, is take the next 30 or 40 minutes with you, with Jack, with your brother-in-law, and stand right here with him and create a plan so that we are in agreement as to what can make him more comfortable and what we can do for Jack and for all of you that will feel like you're getting the support you need and the care that you need and that he needs. And Jack's wife just kind of nodded like, good idea. And it was interesting, such a powerful woman, that kind of dismissed everybody else out of the room without her even saying that. So we did. We spent about 30 or 40 minutes over Jack, and it was important for me that, one, I was very aware from the beginning he could hear my voice. He could hear everything I said, and that he could hear everything that was going on, which was true. He just, because of the tracheostomy and being so weak and debilitated, he just couldn't hear or couldn't respond verbally to us. He could still nod, but even with that, he was so fatigued. Really difficult things, concepts of his medications and things and treatment was too much. But as I was leaning over the bed, talking with him and his family, he looked me right in the eyes, and I looked at him, and it was this amazing little soul-to-soul connection. And he kind of gave me the summary with his eyes, and he just looked at me like to me, he said, thank you. And that he was glad that I understood. And so the brother-in-law, Jack's wife, and me over Jack, we really did create a really good solid plan. They liked how I expressed myself professionally, that I really put compassion as the center point, and then the quality of life he would want next, and then the medical stuff actually last. And she liked the family liked the way that I framed that. So we were finished. The wife said, go downstairs at the table. I'll meet you in a few minutes. And so myself, the social worker, and the nurse practitioner, we went downstairs to this really big table along this one side. And so Jack's wife came downstairs. And as she comes downstairs, we're kind of watching her come around this way. And she comes around, and she grabs my shoulder really intensely. And she puts her face about right here. And again, the social worker and nurse practitioner once again go, like, what now? And her face is right here, and she says, the past 2 weeks have been a living hell. She says, you have no idea. You have no idea. She said, I needed that humor so badly. She says, I just want to thank you for doing that. And then I put my hand on her hand. I said, you're welcome. And so we got back to the business at hand, finishing the paperwork and all that. And out we went, myself, the social worker, and nurse practitioner. And we're going down this long driveway, this long paved driveway of this house, saying nothing. And about halfway through, the nurse practitioner and the social worker look at each other. They don't even say anything. They just look at each other. And at the exact same split second, they turn and look at me, and they say, we thought you were dead. We thought you were dead. And a little chuckle, as we moved down. And that was kind of the end of that day, and things worked out. I was Jack's case manager nurse, and he did die, I think, about 6 weeks later. The most beautiful validation that all the things that happened, although they would never be put into a how to talk to your patient and family, that it was the right thing, a good intuitive call on my part, was once Jack died, his wife would call me. I always worked on weekends, and she would call me about every 2 weeks, and it wasn't a sweet phone call. It wasn't endearing. It was very heavy. She was angry. She felt abandoned by God. She felt lonely. She was lost. But she was, because of kind of her own eloquence, she was able to say these things to me, and she knew, because of the standard I set in that house, that I was going to put kindness before anything medical, and I was going to put kindness before fear, that she knew she could say anything to me that she wanted to, and she did say some amazing things. She was very open. Some people would say crass, but I would say just honest. This woman was really hurting. And then at the end of about 3 months after Jack died, he passed, there was this one phone call towards the end of summer, and she was like at a picnic with her daughter, and she was busy doing some things. But I could tell that phone call, whatever our spiritual agreement was, that we came together for, that it was done. Her voice changed, and I kind of knew we wouldn't talk again, and we didn't, for that time. But it really showed me the value of love, the value of taking a risk, and the value of trying to do the right thing from the heart, rather than from fear, or rather than from policy and procedure. It usually really works out a lot better. Thank you.